All right, hey folks. So we are back for part 2 of the March Q&A. Hope you're all well. I'm feeling fantastic. I've just come back from the gym. I had the best training session. You know when you have a great training session and just the endorphins all go to your head and you just feel like everything is awesome? I'm right there. So let's crack on. Okay, so Bilal says, how to regain confidence after an injury and prevent further from happening? Two-part question. Let's start with the first thing, how to gain confidence. Firstly, I think you have to shift your mindset from what injuries are and how they occur to what they actually are. But so basically, I and the medical community as a whole used to think that injuries were just something that happened. Like, luck of the draw, you walk out your house, get ran over, you get hit by lightning, you're walking down the road, basketball hits you in the head, accident. It's a random accident, but they're not. Most of the time, they are either you being weak and something breaking. Like, for example, a common one is that I've incurred before is if you all of a sudden start to do a lot of running, something in your calf pops because you've been neglecting calf training because you already have great calves. Guilty. So your calves just pop because they're not used to the increased workload. So your calves are weak. The other thing is you rapidly increase the level of intensity or volume from 1 week to the next, and you're not ready for it. So wham, you snap. So I think you have to judge that correctly. So you attack your rehab plan by slowly building up that level of volume that your muscles are supposed to, that you want them to, withstand, and slowly build it back up. Get your rehab plan in order, basically, and just have confidence in that. You can't run scared from injuries all the time. Okay. So once you've got a rehab plan, it's going well, then you've got to just push forward. You can't, there's a saying in trading, scared money don't make money, I think. It's like that with lifting. Scared lifters don't get gains. Okay. It's not as catchy as the trading one, but I still feel it fits. So that's the first thing. You can't be scared of it. It's just, have confidence in your rehab plan. And the other thing, prevent it further from happening. Bilal, you've mentioned this a couple of times. I think you've just got to look at your programming. Like, what exactly are you doing? I've said this loads of times before. If you've watched my channel, you'll know. If you are constantly getting injured or hurt or aches and pains or whatever, right, and it's preventing you from progressing. So we're not just talking about little aches and pains, which are just part of the game. We're talking about actual injuries. If you're actually getting injured, then you're doing too much, and it's a combination of volume and intensity. You might just need less of one or the other. I mean, I've seen you. You're not a small lad. You're a big boy. So something is going wrong with what you're doing. You're either putting in too much volume, too much intensity, something's going wrong. You're a big lad. You're a strong lad. At that level of strength and size, things can snap very quickly if you're not fully aware of your parameters for volume and intensity. So, again, and we've had this chat in DMs, haven't we? I need to see your programming and I need to work with you. But if that's a constant issue and you keep saying it is, then yeah, there needs to be a change. Okay. So Richard Murray, who's a regular for the channel, so thank you, Richard. I appreciate you and thank you for being on the channel and always asking great questions. Hi, Faz. I want to know if you have any tips on how to perform the Bulgarian split squat. I think I might need to work on my flexibility. Okay. He mentioned, or use a smaller bench for my resting leg. Richard, this is where you're going wrong. Okay. People aren't aware of this, but the correct progression is to start with a bench which you lean into. Okay. So the bench on your lead leg, that's easier. Then you take away the bench and have both your feet on the floor. And to make it even harder, you put your back foot on a raised surface. Now, you probably don't know this, but you're starting off with the hardest variation. Don't do that. Start off with the easiest one. So start to have your lead leg onto a raised surface and stretch into that. Get that better, get that better, get that better, get that better, get that better. And then take that away, go onto the floor, stretch out as much as possible. Then when you're really advanced, put your back foot up. And you're doing it in reverse. So easy solution. I mean, it's an easy mistake to make. Don't feel bad. How would you know if no one told you? But yeah, that's basically the idea. But I am a fan of split squats. there's been a lot of hype around split squats recently because of knees over toes guy. The exercise that I always used to use, and my clients will tell you this, is single leg press. That's one of my favorites for correcting knee imbalances. I mean, it's the bodybuilder in me, but I like the single leg press. I think it's great. Lack of balance. You don't have to balance yourself. You just work on one leg. You get a good stretch. You can work hard on that. You can assist with the other leg if you need to. So it's a good exercise. But yeah, Richard, hopefully that helps. All right. Next up, B Monty. It's a pretty easy question here. So he says, how do you go about loading an exercise that's either new or you haven't done in a while to ensure you aren't sandbagging? Firstly, B Monty, appreciate you. Thank you for asking good questions every time. Yeah, dead simple, actually. I would say establish a close to rep maximum for whatever you want to do in the first session. Just build up in the rep range you're working in. So let's say, to give you an example, let's say you want to find an 8 rep max-ish for, I don't know, hack squat. They've got a new machine in the gym and you want to try it out. So just work up in 8s. You know, start with the empty chassis, feel it out. Sometimes the empty chassis is quite heavy. Like I had a hack squat at the old gym and it was really, really heavy. You couldn't load it with very much at all. You could load it with maybe a 10 kilo aside for a max set. Whereas I've had other hack squats where I've had, 4 plates aside on. So very, very different hack squat machines. So just figure out, start it off, go the lightest as you can, do a nice set of 8 to 12, see how it feels. Feels good, add some weight. Keep going up with appropriate rest periods. So about 2 minutes, treat them as work sets really. And get to the point where you feel it's starting to bite. Okay, then maybe add a little bit more weight on and get it to the point where you've probably got 2, 3, 4 reps in the tank. And that's roughly where you'll start. Now, from there, you're good to add weight the next week and the next week and the next week, and you're pretty solid. I've not found that system to be too complicated. It works pretty much every time. I mean, you're going to rapidly progress anyway because your body will get used to things quite quickly and you'll improve in strength rapidly over the weeks. But that's a good start. It's a decent start. Okay. All right. I think. Oh, here we go. James Mack says, would a low incline barbell press, 30 to 45 degrees, be a good option to have as a main compound press over an inclined dumbbell, referring to the way the pec fibers line up in each movement? Well, I don't think there's that much of a difference in terms of the pec fibers for the inclined dumbbell and the inclined barbell. It really depends on your elbows and where you place them. So there's not a massive difference there. I have my issues with having an incline press as your main exercise. I don't know. I tend to find it's a difficult one because it can be quite injurious. It doesn't treat a lot of people's shoulders right, and depending on the angle of your elbows, it can really do bad things to your pecs. It can stretch them out more, or sometimes than a regular barbell bench. And a regular barbell bench can be quite disastrous for some people. So I'm not a huge fan. I like it as an assistance exercise, but as a main press, I'd be more likely to put down a barbell bench, a dumbbell bench, some kind of machine press, slingshot, close grip bench I love, wide grip bench, maybe feet up bench, with the pause, something like that. But not a massive fan of the incline per se. It's okay. It's okay. Especially at 30 to 45, that's quite a high angle. 20 to 30 maybe, but 30 to 45 is a little higher than I would like. I think the optimal balance of chest versus front delt and side delt recruitment is about 20 to 30 degrees. This is what I've seen. So yeah, I don't think there's much difference between barbell and dumbbell. I'm not sure I would class the dumbbell, especially dumbbell incline, as a main exercise. I don't think it's really that heavy enough. Okay. Right. Callan says, recently I have trouble with squats. Essentially, he's getting dizzy after squats. Now, if you've seen Callan, he's pretty jacked. He squats quite a lot of weight. Yeah. Honestly, with this one, Callan, I think he says basically it only happens with squats. He gets like a pressure headache. It's not something I've had a lot of experience with. Plus, I'm not a medical professional. So I think for that one, Callan, because it's a head issue, pressure headaches, and I would go see a doctor. I wouldn't feel comfortable giving you advice because It'd just be irresponsible, I think, if I did. And I don't have the direct experience with dealing with that problem myself or with clients. So I would say it's a head issue. Go take it to the doctor. Be safe. Okay. You don't want to mess around with that stuff. Okay. Now, Frank about fitness says, how much cardio is too much cardio in lifting for size and strength? Well, I think it depends on what type of cardio. Yeah, depends on what type of cardio. I mean, there's a reason why bodybuilders have traditionally done a lot of slow, low intensity cardio, because it adds to calorie burn without adding a great deal of fatigue. It's a great balance. I mean, I mostly did just walking when I did my bodybuilding show a few years back. That's all I did. I just walked a lot because it adds quite a lot of calorie burn with very, very little fatigue. Now, for those of you thinking it doesn't add a great deal of calorie burn, well, bear in mind, most bodybuilders are quite big. So if you're on the bigger side, then you can get away with a fair bit of walking, but you can probably not get away with hardly any high intensity cardio. So I think it depends on a couple of things. It depends on the type of cardio, but also how big you are. If you're a 220 to 250 pound guy, right, HIIT cardio is pretty much out of the question. It's not going to happen. If you're a lighter guy, 160 to 170 pounds, sure, maybe you could get away with some HIIT cardio. Maybe it's a good idea, actually, I think limited amounts of HIIT cardio for even the bigger guys is not a terrible idea. So I'll go back on that a second and just say, when I was saying that a second ago, I meant classes where you're jumping around and stuff. I'm not a big fan of those for big guys for obvious reasons. Your joints would just go to dust. But something I've been doing recently after training sessions has been the step mill. Hard and slow, a minute hard, a minute slow, a minute hard, a minute slow for about 10 minutes. It just gets my heart rate up. The reason I do it is it helps my jogging on the Saturdays. Guys, I jog on a Saturday. So it's pretty safe. And even if you're up to 220, 230, 250 pounds, that's pretty okay. So yeah, I think the bigger you are, the less you can get away with of the high intensity stuff, because it's really going to impact recovery. And you have to think about joints as well. I think the smaller you are, the more you can consider bigger options like CrossFit type stuff, which is fine, But you have to consider caloric burn, impact on joints, and overall training load, because it's all stress at the end of the day. Just like, let's say you have a, really bad week, and I don't know, your cat dies and whatever else, and you get into a car crash, like your stress level is going to be super high. So that will impact your training recovery. It's all the same. It's part of the same recovery system. So just consider it in that sense, consider the overall stress of the client. I know you coach people or of yourself. Consider what you can get away with. Like, I know for me, when I sleep is optimized, when I'm eating enough and I'm eating a surplus, I can do a lot of volume. Like, I can really pound it at the gym, and I respond very well to that. When I'm at maintenance to a deficit, it's a little bit less. When I'm stressed, when I'm not sleeping well, it's a little bit less. All these things add up. It's actually a very interesting side question. It's the question of how much volume you can get away with. And Steve Shaw did a video about this recently, and I wanted to do a follow-up on that topic because I wanted to give my perspective. But it's a direct result of your lifestyle. And that's something to bear in mind. In my consultation with new clients, I always ask them about their lifestyle. Relative stress levels, type of work they do, hours they work, recreation time, sleep, all that kind of stuff, because it provides me with a picture of what type of person I'm dealing with. If I have somebody who's, like, I've just taken somebody on now who's just really stressed all the time, like, I'm not going to have them on a lot of volume at all. It's going to be bare minimum because, well, they're barely holding on anyway. So with that person, you would keep the training stresses low, which includes cardio. So a lot of factors, Frank. I think, I've given you some general guidelines there, but I think you've got to tailor that. I mean, you know this. And Frank also says, how long should it take to see results from lifting, both natural and enhanced? I'll answer the natural question. The enhanced one, it very much it depends on a lot of things, I guess. But in terms of natties, if you do it right and you've not gained 10 to 20 pounds of muscle by the end of your first year, I would have some serious questions as to what you're doing. Because one of the things I teach my beginners, and there's a few of you out there who'll be listening. TJ, hello. One of the things I teach my beginners is diet is very important. So if you hit a plateau, typically we're going to increase food to make sure you're gaining weight. So Yeah, I think there's a lesson to be learned there for beginners, because there is a one-to-one relationship between diet and training. This is a lesson. It's in my beginner book. It's in my the new beginner book. You know, if you go check that, I know you bought it. I think if you go check that out, there's a chapter in there about your first plateau, and it's all about dealing with that with food. Why? Because you have to drill into newbies the relationship, the power of food when it comes to your training success. So if they understand that, if you're doing that right, you should see quite a lot of results. You should see at least 10 pounds in the first year for sure. And that will transform your physique. I gained a lot more in my first year. You guys know the story. I lost about 50 pounds a year prior, just doing cardio and crap. Then when I started lifting weights, I gained back 40, and a lot of that was muscle. And I got very strong in that first year. And that was just normal for me. But looking back, it was actually quite abnormal. But yeah, you can do it. So I gained a hell of a lot in that first year. It was pretty cool. All right. Jason says, how would you combine weightlifting with long distance cycling once or twice a week? Long distance being like 15 to 30 miles twice a week. Okay, that's a lot of cardio. Break into it slowly, Jason. Again, overall stress. Listen, your body can recover from pretty much anything as long as it's introduced slowly. This is what we do. We are adaptive machines. We have been adaptive organisms for like 500,000 years, I think it is, whatever it is. So we are literally we are the most adaptive things ever. Like the human body is an amazing thing, but the proviso is you have to do things gently. Like at no point in evolution was there sort of all of a sudden a need to do 6 hours more of cardio a week. You know, it didn't happen. We live fairly regular lifestyles, but you know, we do that. We do silly things like that nowadays, but it's not something which is quite normal. But yeah, just introduce it slowly, build into it slowly, and you're fine. Just either start light and do less, slowly build up over time. You can recover from a lot. It's just a case of where most people screw that up is they just add it in tomorrow. They're impatient. You know, right, I want to do cardio now. I'm going to get on the bike for 30 miles twice a week. Come on. Build into it slowly. All right. I think that is all the questions from Instagram. So we are going to go over to YouTube. And we are going to check out some YouTube questions. Notice how I'm talking while I'm scrolling on my phone. So unprofessional. Because I'm trying to buy time for my questions. Okay, we're here. All right. Okay. S. Lee says, no question this time. Just wanted to say thanks for the info you give out. I hit a PR using your 85 and 3. Thanks, coach. Amazing. Thank you. That's really nice. I love messages like that. It's so nice. So yeah, brilliant. I like it. I mean, I built a ton of strength off the 85s and 3s. I think it's great. So super pleased with that. So I appreciate you. Okay, let's go over to, Christopher Cole says, hi Faz. In the Tactician program, I would like to work on my overhead pressing strength. Would switching out benches and builders for pressing variations still work as a program? Well, you will have got the link for the new Tactician, like the version 2. There is an advanced version in that, in where you can add in the overhead press, so you can alternate it. So the advanced version has you doing the bench and squat on one day, and there's a potential to do like the overhead press and deadlift on the next day, then a day off, and then repeat the cycle. So you can do it that way. That works pretty well. I do that as a full body variation with some of my clients as well. I'll have a full body day, which is focused on the bench, squat, and row, and then another full body day, which is focused on the overhead press, pull up, and deadlift. And then it alternates like that. It's a really good setup, actually. I was thinking about releasing an ebook about it. But yeah, that's what I would do. I would just add it in as a main exercise before your deadlift. So then you have bench squat, overhead press, deadlift. And you can add in like a bent row in the first day, a pull up on the second day, and just alternate those with variations. So let's just map this out while you guys are here. We're thinking together. So let's map it out. Let's go. We're going to do 8s, 5s, and 3s. This is going to end up being quite a lot of work. So it's a hard routine. So you might want to do all these exercises for 8, 5s, and 3. But let's map out what the routine would look like. So we'll go with some variations. So we don't want to do the actual bench. We'll do the close grip bench on the day 1. Then on day 3, we'll match that with the feet up bench press. It's a pretty good variation. With squats, we'll do a high bar squat, and we'll do either a front squat or a SSB squat. So we can alternate those lighter variations, okay? So that's the bench and the squat sorted. For the overhead press, we can do a seated overhead press. We can do a standing overhead press. Pretty straightforward. For the deadlift, since we're going to be doing it twice a week, I'd like some lighter variations. So I would probably do something like a deficit stiff leg. Actually, no, I wouldn't go straight to a deficit. It depends on your proficiency. I'd maybe start you off as a stiff leg deadlift from the floor. And then as you get more advanced, move you on to a deficit stiff leg. Stiff leg deadlift matched with potentially a sumo deadlift, just to mix it up completely. So we've got a pretty good setup there where we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 main exercises across the week. Then fill in with some upper back work and fill in with the rest of the stuff like delts, arms, calves, abs, all that kind of stuff as time and energy allows. And you've got the base of a pretty good routine. But all of that is covered in the Tactician version too. So just click on the link and download it. But that's what I would say. Yeah. Okay, Lee Harris says, thoughts on CrossFit? Is it feasible to combine CrossFit with strength training and bodybuilding? Yep. My thoughts on CrossFit, I think CrossFit as an idea has got its merits. I mean, clearly, it's very popular. I think it has the potential to go a lot more wrong than a lot of other sports, particularly bodybuilding, when it comes to the actual training practices. I know bodybuilding has a bad reputation with drugs and stuff, but we all kind of delve in the natty circle. So I think there's a lot more potential for things to go wrong because you're looking at high skill lifts done for time. That's a bad combination, usually with not great coaching. And I'll just say that from my perspective. I'm subscribed to the local CrossFit gyms around here, and I've seen some of the technique pieces that the head coaches put out, and it's embarrassing. It's absolutely embarrassing. So I don't have a great deal of confidence on those boxes being particularly good at teaching technique, unless they get specialized people in. The box owners tend to be potentially ones who are out for money rather than anything else. So just my experience, just what I've seen. So I think that's where it potentially goes wrong. There's a little bit too much interest in money rather than the love of the sport from my experience. But it has potential to be done really well. I think it's one of those things where the sad thing about CrossFit is the level of programming complexity is quite low. So most people, if they do CrossFit, they literally just go do a class, do another class, do another class, do another class, and just try and get better that way, which is not really the way to train. I mean, it would be the equivalent of a powerlifter just maxing out on the squat, bench, and deadlift every day. I mean, it works if your name is like Sergey and you're Russian, but it's not going to work for most people. So, yeah, or like a bodybuilder trying to stay shredded all year round. It's just not the way things are done. So I have a big problem with the way CrossFit is typically presented. That's my issue with CrossFit. It's not with the sport itself. It is what it is. And can you combine it? Yeah, sure. I mean, like anything, I was saying to Jason earlier, you can recover from anything. You just have to program it right. It's possible. I have coached CrossFitters before, and it's fine. You just match what they're doing in the gym with what you want them to do and manage the overall stress. It's very possible to do. You just put a focus more on the Olympic lifts and stuff like that and conditioning. They do need strength training, though. A lot of them don't have a great deal of strength training in the box. What the box considers to be strength training, in my experience, isn't great. Technique work is also important. As I say, essentially, for a lot of these guys in the boxes, all they do is the events. They just do a WOD. That's not training. So that's my big issue there. So, but yeah, it's definitely possible. You just need to find somebody who knows what they're doing. Right. Okay. This is nice. We've actually just got a lot of people saying thank you for various things. Okay, so we'll go with this question from Paul as one of the last questions. Paul says, thanks again, Faz. When on a Minicut, 2-3 weeks max, do you feel like it's better to eat before or after your workout? For example, I hit the gym first thing in the morning, so I've been going fasted. I only have 1,800 calories to split through the day. For you, Paul, I would definitely eat after you train. And the reason is less to do with when you get your calories, and it's more to do with how many calories you have for the rest of the day and managing hunger. If you are training before you go to work, odds are you're training probably 7 in the morning, something like that, maybe earlier. Now, if you eat before then, let's say you eat a 400 calorie meal, well, all of a sudden, wham, you've got 1,400 calories for the rest of the day. That's not fun. One of the advantages of doing like fasted cardio or training in the morning is so that you actually have calories left over for the rest of the day. So I wouldn't eat before. No, I wouldn't. I would just suck it and see. What I will say, though, is what you can do to help yourself for the previous day, make sure you're well hydrated. And for all my regulars to the channel, what does hydration mean, guys? Answers down below, please. Oh, I'm out of focus. No, I'm not. Right. Hydration means not just water. It means carbohydrates and electrolytes. Hopefully you all know that, because as soon as I say hydration, everyone's brains just shut down and like, we've heard this all before, but it's more than water. It's electrolytes and it's carbohydrates. So you need both. So do yourself a favor and heavily manage your electrolytes. You have my video on Chronometer and how to manage your vitamin and mineral intake. So get your potassium, sodium, magnesium, calcium levels up to scratch where they need to be via your diet. And you can do that on a low calorie diet. 1,800 calories is not that low. I've been lower. Get that all sorted and you'll do a lot for your hydration, which will mean you'll wake up more ready to go. If you wake up parched with a dry throat, tired and groggy, you shouldn't be waking up like that. You know, you can do a lot more with your nutrition. So watch my video on Chronometer, how to manage your vitamins and minerals, and that will give you an idea of how to do that. Okay. All right. We will go with actually a similar related question. What's your take on salt during the workout? I take about 750 milliliters of water with a gram of salt to the gym. I feel it gives me a good pump, but it can also be placebo. It's definitely not placebo. It's a thing. So I gave this as guidelines before, but here are my rough guidelines for like stretch targets to ensure proper hydration. About 6 grams of potassium, 4 grams of sodium, 1.5 grams of calcium, and 1 gram of magnesium. If you can satisfy those requirements, you will be far better hydrated, and part of that will be the sodium before the workout. But make sure you get the rest of the stuff in order too. Oh, damn, this video it's gone fuzzy. Anyway, I'm not restarting now. It's been 27 minutes. You'll have to put up with it. So get all that in check. Now, proviso there is the potassium, the magnesium, and the sodium is okay to supplement with. Do not supplement with the calcium, as that's been associated with worse outcomes. And a usual disclaimer, check with your doctor first. Don't try this if you are on blood pressure medications, all that kind of stuff. Don't follow the advice of a YouTuber for your medical welfare. But in general, I did a video on that, and I've given some stretch targets, and that will increase your hydration. And that will give you better pumps. So it's definitely not a placebo. It's a real thing, but you can go one step better and watch that video and see what else you can add in as well. Right, folks, I'm going to call it there. Thank you all for the questions, and I will see you in part 3.